What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the podcast this week. I hope everybody had a great new year. Now, Apple had a great year last year in 2020. I can't believe I am saying that. We're in 2021! Oh my god! Now, 2021 is going to have some great new products. Now, as I said, Apple had a great year. And right now, the M1 Max and the M1 chip and possibly the M1X chip or M2, M1X2, whatever they're calling it, is the talk of the town. All of that is. But right now, I want to talk about tablets because Apple makes some great iPads, including the iPad Pro, a new iPad Pro, a refresh to the regular iPad, and a new redesign and update to the iPad Mini. Now, we know that the iPad Pro is still 2 years behind other devices on the A12Z chips. Now, the Apple actually is giving us the A14 chip on the iPad Air 4 and on the iPhone 12s. Now, I believe that as we know, the M1 chip that comes inside of the new MacBooks, including the MacBook Air and 13, the MacBook Air, the MacBook Pro, is actually based on the design of the A14 chip. So these iPads, Apple might actually be shipping these new iPad Pros in the form of an A14X chip, and rumors are actually saying, and other people are actually saying, that this chip, the A14X chip, and the M1 chips are actually similar in performance. Now, we might actually see a slightly worse performance in the A14X chip than in the M1 chip, and I believe that they're actually doing this because they need to make sure that there's a difference between the two products. Although I would love to see an M1 if maybe Apple updates that M1 chip and calls it something else, maybe put it in that new iPad, that iPad would be unbelievable, as it is right now. But aside from that, now the iPad Pro and the MacBook Pro, as you know, come with fanless designs. Now, we could see similar scores in benchmarks in the A14X chip and the M1 chip, M1 chip equipped MacBook Air. So that would be exciting. Now, Apple is possibly going to give this iPad a very clear advantage over the iPad Air, because the iPad Air 4 right now is beating the iPad Pro, the current iPad Pro, in single core performance. Now, with this new iPad Pro with the A14X chip, it is very possible that this iPad will be beating the iPad Air in places including single core and multi-core performance. The graphics department will also make this iPad even better than the rest, and we'll see some great new updates. And we've also seen some improvements in the graphics with the A14 chip in the iPhone 12 and 12 Pro and 12 Mini and 12 Pro Max. Now, with the iPad Pro, that is not the only thing that will possibly be coming. We know that we're ready for some new technologies to come into it, and that includes mini LED display. What? I know. So the iPad, this iPad would be the first in a large market with the mini LED display. So, how does this actually work? How does this mini LED display work? Basically, it uses an LCD display, which will have hundreds of LED lights in the background, which can then be turned on or off independently of the entire screen's backlighting through a full array of local dimming zones. So basically, instead of having just one big giant LED light in the background, you'll have several dozens of LED lights which can then be turned on or off. Now, this is awesome because it can lead to a whole plethora of things, including a higher contrast ratio, higher brightness levels, deeper black levels, and the ability to properly watch HDR content. We know that these are some of the benefits that we get on the OLED displays, but unlike the OLED displays, the mini LED displays will be less prone to permanent screen burning. Now, the only products that actually let us view HDR content are the OLED iPhones and that $5,000 Pro Display XDR monitor that Apple released with that Mac Pro last year, that is worth itself $5,000, except they released this with no stand. So, maybe we could, avoid having to buy that display or that monitor or even another monitor if we can view HDR content on the iPad. Now, not only will you be able to watch HDR content, but you can also, it would possibly let us edit HDR content on the iPad screen, and we will not have the need to go buy a bigger, more expensive monitor. So, the new MacBooks and the iMacs are rumored to come out with their own similar mini LED technologies. I am very excited to see that. I love the Macs. I love iMacs, and I would love to see maybe a 32-inch iMac 27 with that M1 chip, or who knows what they will put in it. But with mini LED display, a mini LED display on each one, that would be an incredible feat that I don't think any other company can compete with. Now, there are no rumors of a redesign update or redesign updates for the you know for the iPad Pro. It'll still come with a wide angle camera, ultra wide angle camera, and the lidar scanner. So no redesign. I think it's going to look more like this iPad Pro that we have now. Now, with the iPad Pro, we are also going to notice that it'll be the first iPad with the 5G cellular modem. Nobody really cares about that. We don't have the infrastructure for 5G, so the fact that Apple's going to make this a big deal is actually quite stupid, but great on the marketing because people believe they're getting 5G, even though they're not. Go to South Korea for that. Now, there are only rumors for the 12.9-inch iPad Pro, and there are no rumors of an 11-inch refresh. So they are saying that possibly now it could be coming, but that maybe they're going to discontinue the 11-inch or keep the 11-inch the same and maybe just do this to the 12.9. Personally, I think they should keep the 11-inch. I recently saw someone with a 12.9-inch iPad, and personally, it's way too big for my liking, and I would prefer them keep it and do the refresh on this too. I mean, that would be even better. And we all know that we need a refresh on the regular 10.2-inch iPad. Now, people are saying that it'll get a 10.5-inch display, which I think would be awesome. Now, Apple gave us the iPad Air, which had a modern design. And so this means that they can actually take the previous 10.5-inch iPad Air 3 design and bring it to the cheaper, $329 iPad. So, what does this mean? You take the iPad Air, the iPad Air 3, give the designs and all of that to the cheaper iPad, and give it some new updates. So it would get a 10.5-inch display. It'll still have the home button with that Touch ID built in, as they did with the iPad Air 4. So that would be nice. Now we will also most likely see updates to the display. Maybe a laminated display with P3 wide color support, which will actually show a wide range of colors on the LCD display panel. Now, because of the size and placements of the smart connectors, Apple will not really have a need to make new accessories for this cheaper iPad, including the Apple Smart Keyboard and other party keyboard cases. Apple might just say to other third parties like Logitech or Bridge Pro, "Hey, you guys can do whatever you want," because the tablet is, the iPad, the smart keyboard and the Apple Pencil and all of that, and all those cases work with this iPad. So now it'll still have a Lightning port, which is, and they will not switch it to a USB-C. Now this actually works because you actually need a solution for Apple to insert make sure that the Apple Pencil works on this device. Now, if you just take the regular iPad Air design, it's actually going to be impossible to put the second generation of the Apple Pencil on the device, and this is due to that design. So, now how about the chip? We know that the chip will update most likely 2 years from the A10Z to the A13 chip with 4 gigs of RAM and a starting memory storage of 64 gigs. Personally, I think they should go with a A14 chip. It makes sense to me, but I don't know. Maybe others might see differently, but I definitely think that we should go with an A14 chip on this iPad specifically. Maybe A13 on the iPad mini? Huh? Anyone? Now, this should be released possibly at the end of the year. I don't see Apple releasing this iPad right away in 2021 in March. Now, I do want to go back to the iPad Pro. Most likely that'll be released if we follow Apple's patterns over the years in March of 2021 like they did in 2020. Now, we all know that the iPad mini 5 is great, but it needs a major redesign update, and what better way to do that than to actually, update it. Now, Min Chi Kuo says that the iPad mini will have a new screen size, bigger than the 7.9-inch display found on the iPad mini 5 right now. He also most likely it'll be let's see. He also says it will be an 8.5 or a 9-inch display size, which is actually really nice. It's a little bit bigger, but it's not too bad, and it'll mainly be for regular users. Others say it needs a reduction in the screen's bezels, and that is only like the iPad Air and the iPad Pro. And the screen reduction in bezels means that, well, it would lose the home button and it would use the new swiping gestures found on the new iPads and the new iPhones. I don't know. I feel like for this iPad, if they're going to do that, then they might as well get rid of the home button on that 10.5-inch iPad. Just my opinion. Now, they say it'll also have Touch ID in the power button like the iPad Air, and I could see that if they're losing the home button. Now, the iPad mini, and by the way, this might be a more expensive iPad with those designs I just mentioned. Now, the iPad mini 5 supports the Apple Pencil, so this one might just take that as well. Now, it also takes the design of the iPad Air, and it might take it, and it may take the second gen Apple Pencil with magnetic charging. Now, we will see a new starting price, possibly of $500 for this new iPad mini, which it takes the new design of the iPad Air, and the design may make it cost more. As I said, it might be a little bit more expensive. Now, it also may come with the A14 chip, like with the new iPad Air. And the size may be that difference that you are looking for. If you're thinking, gee, I wonder what's going to be the size between the difference between the size of the iPad Air and the iPad mini, it'll be most likely the display size. But I think that if they're willing to use the A14 on this one, they might as well use the A14 on that new iPad 10.5-inch with the laminated display and Touch ID and all kinds of goodies. Now, that is my update this week for Apple in terms of what kinds of products they're going to be releasing. If you like this video, go ahead and leave a like, comment, share, subscribe, share this with your friends. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next technology update.